week we're going to be talking about graphic design. So while other types of art are open to interpretation, a graphic designer's job is to actually make something that requires no interpretation. A good graphic designer can communicate a very specific message to a group of people, and everyone should get it right away. So interpretation is not part of the formula in graphic design. Graphic design is everywhere. I personally think we don't pay enough attention to it. I think that graphic designers have to be very, very clever in what they're doing. Sometimes they get to do, really glamorous things like book covers, and other times they have to design containers for every product that you might need to buy, including poop bags. So I brought this one in because, first of all, I wanted you to see just what a graphic designer has to think about when they're designing a box. That they're actually dealing with a box that has at least 6 sides, including this little tab up here, even more. They have to design for all of that, and this graphic designer had to make the product appealing and desirable. And one way to do that, of course, when it comes to pets, is to make it cute. So you see graphic design every time you go to see a movie. The opening graphics, they tend to be, this is probably one of the more glamorous jobs a graphic designer can have, is designing those opening graphics. And the closing graphics too, the part that we all ignore when we walk away. Sometimes if you actually stick around, you might see something clever happen. Not always, but sometimes. Okay, and graphic design has been around since ancient times. The Egyptian hieroglyphics are, basically a very graphic way of communicating, and these are just very, very clean and simple and easy to read designs, and that's exactly what graphic design should be. So we start to see graphic design really take hold once we have the capability of printing things in multiples. And so the invention of the printing press in the 15th century, along with the industrial revolutions of the 18th and 19th century, are really what spread graphic design, because by nature graphic design is for making multiples, whereas a lot of fine art, or most fine art outside of printmaking, is one of a kind. Graphic design is meant to be distributed far and wide. And the the printing press made this possible. And so I brought in these old ads to show you. These are things that what advertisements used to look like during the 19th century, during the Industrial Revolution of the 19th century. Not very clean and clear compared to the graphics that we prefer today. It's like they were trying to make these actually very, very decorative, very, very elaborate and decorative, but that's what they used to look like. And these styles kind of evolved as there became greater demand for more and more mass distribution and more advertising and marketing. Like I say, graphic design is everywhere, things that we take for granted every day. You need to know where that restroom is, and you need to know, which way your gate is at the airport. You need to know where your exit is on the freeway, right? All of these things, somebody had to design it. So the next time you are in another country and you're not sure which bathroom to go into, you can thank a graphic designer. Corporate logos. I brought in the 2 UPS logos just to show you how much they changed over time. That the original logo showed the UPS a package tied up with a string, because that's how people used to wrap up their packages back in old days. But that certainly wouldn't be something that would put would give you a lot of faith in the company now. You want to think it's going to be fast, it's modern, it's technology. And so they made this little swoosh, kind of suggesting speed. And they gave it this kind of little metallic glow, and made it look kind of up to date and, a little bit more slick. So companies, they want to keep the same logo. They want to have consistency. They don't want to go changing their logo every year or anything. But at the same time, a company that's been around for a really, really long time does periodically need to update their logos to make it look caught up with the times. And as much as we may complain about advertisements, they are really part of our landscape, especially in this country, I would say. And if any of you have ever been to New York City and been to Times Squares, where it's literally blinding, the number of bright, bold graphics, but it's also kind of fun and exciting too. Typography is a component of graphic design. Every font that you use in your computer, somebody had to design that. A graphic designer had to do that. So letters have been very carefully designed ever since ancient times, when they were, actually carved into stone. But with the invention of the printing press and movable type in 1450, it started to become very important that alphabets were designed in a way that was beautifully, that was beautiful and most importantly easy to read. So the first book to ever be mass-produced with movable type was the Gutenberg Bible, and I brought in a picture to show you what movable type looked like. So back before digital times, type was laid out. It was all the letters were little pieces of lead, and of course they were backwards because it was a print. It's basically a print. You put a piece of paper on it, run it through the press, and pull it off. And if these letters are forwards, they're going to come backwards on your print, right? So with movable type, you could lay out an entire page of text and then print thousands and thousands of copies of that page and bind them together. And of course, this suddenly made books affordable and available. Books were one of a kind before the invention of the printing press and movable type. So the Gutenberg Bible was the first book to be made in this way. Okay, every time you look at a book, a magazine, a web page, an advertisement, anything, somebody had to put it together, and this is called layout. So designers tend to kind of take the page and divide it up into columns or a grid and lay out the text and the graphics and the headlines in such a way that it looks pleasing to the eye, easy to read, allowing a lot of nice empty space, what we call negative space, to make it pleasant to look at. Broadsides were something that used to be very popular back in the 19th century and probably back in the 19th century and earlier. They were single sheets of paper that were printed up and then handed out around towns to either advertise an event, argue a political cause or a religious cause. They are kind of the ancestors of posters and advertising. And I brought in this example here just to show you the type of things that a broadside might advertise. So this was actually the public hanging of a horse thief. And so public hangings were big events back in those days, and everybody wanted to go see them. We've talked about Henri de Toulouse-Lautrec before in our unit on printmaking, but I just wanted to bring in his poster one more time. Posters are ways that we advertise all kinds of things. Think about all the movie posters that you see, suggesting upcoming movies, and they need to make you. They need to grab your eye. And they need to encourage you to buy whatever it is they're selling, basically. Okay, another famous poster of Rosie the Riveter from World War II, and I'm sure you've seen numerous rip-offs and variations from this one. But the original was back when all the men had gone off to war, and so the women who stayed behind did all the jobs that the men were no longer around to do. And so we see Rosie flexing her muscles to show her strength. And this has become kind of a signal of power, of women's empowerment, and continues to mean that to this day. Okay, every day we spend so much time on the screen. Designers are needed to make everything you look at on a screen look good, whether it's on your desktop or on your phone. And then speaking of phones, somebody has to design all those apps, and they need to look good. So in a nutshell, that was graphic design.